G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Marky and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice, where I'm going to be reading stories from Reddit and you're going to be listening to me, and hopefully not falling asleep. So with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and let's just get right into it. Thank you. Posted by a deleted user, titled, "Am I the asshole here for not moving out so my roommate can get his sister's kids out of foster care? My roommate and I rent a pretty nice 2-bedroom apartment together. We pay practically nothing in rent as we have a deal to keep an eye on things and take care of facilities. It's a great deal because it doesn't take more than a few hours a week and we take turns. My roommate's sister lost custody of her kids, 2 girls, 1 boy, and may be facing prison time. My roommate wants to get them out of the foster system since they got put in separate homes. My roommate is their only family. Their dads aren't even in the picture, so there's no one else that can take them in. The social worker gave him some requirements, has issues with me because I'm an unrelated adult man, and because I have a record of substance abuse. Also because of the ages of the kids, my roommate needs to have at least 2 bedrooms. He cannot afford a 2-bedroom place except this one because of the great deal that we get, which is why he wants me to move out. He says, well, the fact is, he needs the apartment more than me. I get that he's in a bad position, but rent is insanely expensive around here. If I moved out, renting even a single bedroom elsewhere would be way more expensive than renting this apartment by myself. I would like to keep living here so I can save money, so I can hopefully one day be able to buy a place of my own. That's just never going to happen if I have to pay market rate rent. I was also living here first, so I don't feel like it's fair that I should have to be the one to move." In the comments, Marlonika says, "Doesn't your great deal for rent have a taking care of things condition? I assume having 3 kids at home may be a deal breaker for the landlord anyway. Regardless, if he can't afford to take the kids in, he shouldn't. I'll be honest, this is a heartbreaking situation, and not leaving the house will make you feel like an asshole. But you're entitled to be an asshole given the circumstances." And OP replies, "I don't know about the landlord, but the taking care of things doesn't really take that much time at all." Commercial Curve says, "Depending on the ages of the kids, since they are different sexes, they may be required to have separate rooms. So your roommate would actually need a 3-bedroom place. That was the concern when we were contemplating getting some Niblings placed with us." And OP says, "Their social worker just said at least 2 bedrooms." Your roommate may also be eligible for a stipend if he provides foster care for the kids. That stipend can go towards paying for a suitable place. And OP says, "No, he's family, so he doesn't." Is social services going to be paying him like a regular foster family? If so, he can afford a new place. OP says, "No, I guess relatives don't get money, but he's going to apply for SNAP." Where was Mum living with these kids? He could move there with them instead? I'm not sure what her living situation was before her loss of custody, but the kids were somewhere. Not the asshole. Hoping for the best for your friend and his kiddos though. And OP says, "Not an option." Your roommate needs to talk to a social worker to get set up for housing, food stamps, Medicaid, daycare, and whatever he needs to do to care for these children. Are the grandparents around? Can they assist in some way? It seems like there should be other family members who can help with this situation. And OP says, "As I said, my roommate is their only family." Your roommate should reach out to social services. They may be able to get him placed in subsidized housing and get assistance for fostering the children. If anything, he may wind up having more resources than you when it comes to affordable housing, so he should leave. I work in community outreach. He will not qualify for subsidized housing until he has custody of those kids. The system is a quagmire and overwhelmed. Housing is one of the hardest resources to find. I work for child welfare. My office could pay the difference in rent for up to 6 months until he got guardianship finalized and could qualify for housing programs. It might not be the same everywhere, but in my jurisdiction, we do have funding for that if it means preserving a family. I was waiting for that last line. You found this stellar deal. Would be very insane for him to come in and ask you to completely jack up your life for his situation. I feel for the kids, but he's got to figure out a different path. I think I'm pretty much on the same bandwidth as that last comment there. We are currently within the grips of an insane economic situation. You've found an absolute diamond of a deal that doesn't even take that much effort. There is no way that you should give up your living circumstances here. Just comparing his chances at finding other opportunities for affordable housing and government-subsidized programs, he has such a better run at it than you do. I don't see why you would give that up. You are in a much tougher spot of finding affordable housing if you leave. And yeah, I feel like anyone can say, well, the morally right thing to do is to give up your spot in a house and do what the social worker recommended there because you, with your history of substance abuse, can't stay. These kinds of moral problems are just that, big problems, and there is never an easy answer. There could be even more that you've left out, or that he has left out of the situation that would swing the balance in either way, but as it stands right now, I'm on your side, and I don't think you're an asshole for sticking to your guns. And now, onto the update. This is a pretty short update. I got the suggestion a few times that I should talk to my landlord about the situation, since he may not be okay with the idea. While he was okay with the idea of kids, he already has a lot of tenants with kids, he was not okay with continuing the same arrangement with my roommate without me there. So there really is no point in me moving out, since my roommate would have to pay market rate rent for the place, which he can't afford. As of right now, my roommate's plans are to continue living here while he figures out some other arrangements. Once he does, he's going to move out, and I'm going to get a new roommate here. And now, onto the final update. I didn't think that I was going to make another update, but some stuff happened, and I kind of need a place to vent. You can go to my profile and read my previous posts if you don't know the story. I said in my last update that my roommate was going to continue to live here until he figured out some other arrangement that would work out for the four of them. I had passed on some of the helpful suggestions and sources that people had messaged me about. Upon further research, though, he realized it was still going to take time, and it would be faster for him to save up money for a deposit and first and last month's rent on a new place, and then get assistance once the kids were moved in. Honestly, I don't really get how it works. For those wondering why he doesn't have money saved up from living here, it's because he's using the money to pay off his student loans. So the plan was for him to hopefully have enough in 4 to 5 months. My roommate started to become more and more hostile though. First just passive-aggressive, but it led to a big blowout. Nothing physical, just yelling. He was really mad because he thought that since I have such a good relationship with our landlord, that I should have tried to convince him that he could handle the maintenance on his own. Honestly, he probably could. I know I can handle it on my own. I almost considered it too because I didn't think that I wanted to continue to live with him. After talking to my landlord about the situation again, we came to a new agreement. My landlord is going to be ending our lease. He gave us both official notice. I'm going to continue living here, but moving into another unit. It's a 1-bedroom and a bit smaller. But on the bright side, it was recently renovated, so it's nicer. I'm going to have to do the maintenance on my own from now on, but it's still a really great deal, and worth it to not have to deal with roommate issues anymore. Thankfully, I'll be able to move into the new unit in just a few days, because my old roommate was super pissed after he got the notice. He's used more than a few expletives when talking to me and says that I've ruined everything because now he won't be able to save money since he's going to have to start paying rent somewhere. To be honest, with how he's been, I've sort of lost sympathy for him. I do still feel bad for his sister's kids though. In the comments, Read Something says, "It's a good outcome. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Something your former roommate may still need to learn. Best of luck to you all." Everyone agrees that it's sad for the children, but my reply to your original post is exactly what happened. It was your landlord's decision whether your roommate could kick you out and move the kids in, and he did not agree to it. Your roommate was obviously panicking, but he didn't think things through. Hopefully he will have assistance when he gets the kids, but he doesn't seem to be aware of the responsibility he is taking on. But good for you for standing up for yourself. I think OP was absolutely right to make the decisions that he did, but I'm still not unsympathetic to the situation that his roommate found himself in. The roommate should be working with the social worker to see what benefits he can obtain. It sounds like he's been tricked into an informal kinship care setup, which would remove the foster stipend. Who would have thought without context that the landlord ending the lease was a win-win for OP? I still do empathize for the roommate though. I'm wondering where in the US a landlord, even a shitty one, was able to end a lease and remove tenants without actual notice or eviction. They could be month to month, so just 30 days notice. You don't start eviction until they don't leave after the 30 days. I was feeling bad for the roommates until we learned they got a good deal for the rent because of OP. Roommate wants to keep the deal that OP made and evict OP from the apartment. I get that it was a decision in a rush, but dude. And then when it rightfully didn't happen, but OP still gave him plenty of resources to go for, roommate decided that being a little shit was his option. The situation is shitty, we get it, particularly for the poor kids, but it's not a reason to be an absolute dipshit to the person that helped you get a deal that saved you money. By acting like that, roommate just created another problem for himself. He could have stayed neutral and kept living in a cheap rent apartment until he had enough money, but no. He decided to be so unbearable that OP wanted to leave, which I think was his plan all along, but it didn't turn out how he expected it. All in all, the only people I feel bad about are the kids. Foster care doesn't seem like a pleasant walk, but I hope they have the chance to find people that care for them. Yeah, it's a bit of a bittersweet ending for this one, and it doesn't particularly, to me, sound like it's ending well for the kids. At the end of the day, OP is having the decision made for them by the landlord, so I don't think the roommate can particularly fault OP for this one. And yeah, I can absolutely see why the roommates made these decisions, why they became a passive-aggressive asshole, but it didn't have to end that way. You can be civil while still under stress and come to an amicable solution in these situations. But just to devolve into the toxic name-calling state that he got into and the stress that he was putting upon OP, I don't see that ever really ending well for him. Like, yes, there's a possibility that you bully someone out of leaving the apartment and the lease setup, but what if they don't? What if they stick to their guns? Doesn't really seem like they planned for anything but OP being bullied out of the apartment. And yeah, as others have said previous, OP, good job for standing up for yourself in this situation. I think that you did the right thing. Our next post is by user Expert Advantage, titled, My 26 female, boyfriend 25 male, made plans on our first date anniversary. Firstly, I want to make it clear that this kind of resulted as a mistake on both ends. So my 26 female, boyfriend 25 male, made plans with his friends this week on our first date anniversary. This would be the first time celebrating any anniversary between us, and we had spoken about it for a while. We both kept getting muddled up on the days as we've both been extremely busy at work, though we knew throughout this month that it was coming. Before I realized the specific day of our anniversary landed on, he had told me about his plans since he wouldn't be able to see me that day. Our work schedules don't often align, so he always runs it by me if he has plans on a day that he's off, in case one of us is expecting to meet after work, and vice versa. Since I didn't put it together that his plans coincided with our anniversary, I told him that it was alright and was really enthusiastic about him going. The problem is that today the penny dropped, and I realized that we made a mistake. I know it sounds silly, but I feel really upset about this. It's our first anniversary, and it just feels like such a shame to miss it. There is also a part of me that is slightly upset that he even made plans on that day, which I know is irrational and hypocritical, seeing as I got muddled up too. But I guess it's just me wishing that he had realized or kept it in mind, even if I wasn't aware. I know that's not fair, but I'm just being honest. I don't know whether this is something that I should or could bring up to him. I feel like I definitely can't ask him to cancel his plans, seeing as I already said that I don't mind, and he already committed to his friends. I did tell him today that our anniversary is on that specific day, but he didn't say anything about us not being together to celebrate. I'm not gonna lie, a part of me was hoping that he'd offer to cancel. I'm considering asking my work if I can take the day off, since it's his day off too, that maybe we can do something before or after his plans. But in the past, he's been very against seeing me when he's already made plans. I'm not sure if there's even advice anyone could give me. I know we could celebrate on another day and that we will have more anniversaries in the future, but it just feels very sad that we messed this first one up. Should I tell him how upset I am, or would that just be unnecessary guilt? In the comments, Amaranthesk says, I think you're right to not ask him to change his plans, or try to pile more plans on top of a day when he's already busy. Just let him know that you'd like to plan something special on another day soon, and then you can both enjoy doing something together on another day without looking at the clock to see when he has to rush off to his other thing. That said, it's fine to be honest about the fact that you're feeling a little sad that you both mixed up the dates here. As long as you recognize that doesn't mean that either of you has to do anything about that, other than make your backup plan for another day. OP says, you're right. I think a part of me thought maybe doing something on the same day would be a good fix, but it's true that it would just put pressure and time constraints on everything, and it's not necessary to do anything about it like you said. I'm just gonna leave it and make sure that we plan to celebrate another day. Just make plans with BF for another day. The celebration of the relationship is important, not when the celebration occurs. I've been married for a lot of years. When we were young, we both worked rotating shifts and our days off rarely aligned. It didn't matter whether we celebrated on the exact day of an anniversary or Valentine's, or pick any other holiday. And OP says, that's a very good point and really helps to hear. I'm definitely placing a lot of importance on the actual day, but you're right that it's the celebration that's important overall. I guess I just needed some perspective. And I think that my advice on this one would be the same. I feel like you're just freaking out over nothing. And it doesn't seem like you're coming from the perspective of a 26-year-old here, OP. I would know because I'm 26. I personally wouldn't be freaking out being like, oh my god, we missed the first day. This is the end of my life. Maybe if I was 16 years old, I'd have this kind of freak out, so I find it just a bit odd. Like, yes, we absolutely all make mistakes, but I don't understand why you're so freaked out about this one. Absolutely your feelings are valid, but yeah, this is kind of a non-issue. And, you should tell him. You should absolutely be transparent with your emotions. You should express that you made a mistake, potentially he made a mistake too by forgetting, and then you make up and move on. That's just life. Our next update is titled, My boyfriend's friend expressed his feelings for him. Should I tell him this makes me uncomfortable? So my boyfriend has a friend, let's call him Dave, who has expressed his feelings for him. This is going to be a really long post, so sorry in advance. To give some background, Dave is a work colleague and they've been friends for a while. Dave is openly gay and we've met several times. I never had any problems with him. We seem to get along quite well. This all started a few months ago. Dave and my boyfriend live on the same road, and after a night out with his work colleagues, they were dropped off together at Dave's house, when my boyfriend planned to walk home. That night, I had been messaging my boyfriend before bed, and at around 3 a.m., he had messaged me that he was on his way home. I was asleep by then. The next morning, I woke up to see the 3 a.m. message, and saw that just after 5 a.m., he messaged me to say that he was home. I found this a little bit odd, since the place he was going home from was about 30 minutes away, though I thought maybe he just forgot to reply. When he woke up, I asked him about his night and how late he got home. He told me that the whole work crew were being dropped off in the same Uber, so it took him about an hour to get back. But this confused me even more, because that wouldn't explain the 5 a.m. message. I asked if he ended up doing afters at Dave's house, but he said no, and just left it at that. He didn't even say that he forgot to message or anything to explain the missing hour. I found it a bit strange, but left it alone, even though his responses were a little out of character, and I could tell that he wasn't telling me something. The next date night that we had, he finally let it slip that he wasn't telling me everything about that night. He told me that while he was walking home, Dave, who had already gone home since the Uber dropped them at his house, suddenly started running after him. He told me that Dave told him that he's had strong feelings for him for who knows how long, and that he was interested in starting something with him. My boyfriend said he was really in shock, and that he reminded him that he was straight and has a girlfriend who he's met. Dave asked if any part of him would be interested in trying anything, and my boyfriend said no. I wasn't extremely annoyed by this story, other than being a bit bothered that he tried to proposition him that night, but I asked him why he wouldn't just tell me that this happened, rather than keeping it a secret for a few days. He said he thought that I might get upset, and when I asked him why I would be, he ended up adding more to the story. Apparently, while Dave was making this declaration of love, he was also taking the opportunity to badmouth me. Dave doesn't know me extremely well, but like I said before, our interactions at that point had been pleasant. He was telling my boyfriend that I don't deserve him and he could do much better than me, amongst other things. This, of course, did upset me, and I felt extremely disrespected. Not only did he try to convince my boyfriend to cheat on me, but the stuff that he was saying was also extremely insulting. Dave and my boyfriend ended up having an hour-long conversation in the rain. He jokingly referred to it as the most romantic thing anyone has ever done for him, but I don't really know how much my boyfriend defended me or made it clear that this type of dialogue isn't okay with him. He definitely shut it down though. Since then, I've felt very uncomfortable with my boyfriend and Dave's friendship. I don't want to be the type of girlfriend that has a problem with any of her boyfriend's friends, but I really felt like Dave had crossed a line. Still, they are constantly together because they work with each other, and my boyfriend spends a lot of time with his work colleagues on days off, etc. The problem is that, as time goes on, it's getting to me more and more. Yesterday, I posted about my boyfriend having made plans with his friends, the work colleagues, on our anniversary. Basically, they're planning to play Dungeons & Dragons, and Dave went over to my boyfriend's place yesterday at 6:30 p.m. to create his character, since my boyfriend has never played before. My boyfriend had made it seem like there was a group who were going to help him make his character, but it turned out to just be Dave. I only realized this because we're on FaceTime, and Dave rang the bell while we were on call. Because he had abruptly hung up the phone on me, he told me he would call me back later on when Dave had left, and made it seem like he wouldn't be long. Well, it gets to midnight, and my boyfriend still didn't call. I messaged to ask whether he was free yet, and he said that Dave's still there, and they're having some drinks. Because I had work, I just ended up going to bed and said that we would call tomorrow, which is now today. Today we called, and my boyfriend told me that he is extremely hungover and that Dave stayed until about 4 a.m. last night. I asked him what the hell happened since it wasn't meant to be a big night, and he said that they were initially drinking beers, but then moved to margaritas and lost track of time. I asked them what they were doing all that time, literally 9.5 hours, and he said that it took them about 3 hours to make his D&D character, and then after that, Dave asked him to teach him how to DJ. My boyfriend makes music and DJs. I didn't say anything further than just asking him what happened last night, and he'll be seeing Dave again tonight for the D&D thing. This entire situation has seriously bothered me. Call me insecure, but I am not comfortable with my boyfriend spending one-on-one alone time all night with anyone who has expressed deep feelings for him, let alone someone who completely disrespected me in order to try and convince my boyfriend to get with him. I know that my boyfriend isn't gay, but to me I just feel the same as I would feel had it been a girl who was interested in him. Even if nothing is going to happen, it feels like he's entertaining someone's interest, particularly someone who clearly doesn't respect our relationship. Should I speak to my boyfriend about this? What would I even say? I'm just getting the vibes of last night we let the liquor talk. In the comments, David Hiking in Alaska says, if you and your boyfriend surrounded yourself with high-drama people, you're going to get drama. Most friends don't stir the pot by dissing our partners like Dave is doing, and an emotionally intelligent boyfriend would 1. Shut that down rather than let Dave prattle on, and 2. Not tell you about it because it's only going to, and clearly has, sandpapered your insecurities. It seems like your boyfriend likes the attention he's getting from Dave, whether he's straight or not. And I'd argue you can't know that my boyfriend is not gay or bi, since I know a number of people who married their spouses only to have that come out years or decades later. Hanging out with a gay guy who is hitting on him versus, being at home having sex with his girlfriend is a weird preference for a completely straight guy. Did the boyfriend get raised in a fundy religious, LDS, Catholic Islam that would preclude him from believing that he could be happy, moral, and respected if with a guy? The closet is powerful. Such discussions of sexuality lead nowhere until the person is ready to talk about it, if ever. So I'd suggest talking only about the drama. Dave is more drama than you want brought back to your relationship, and while an occasional night out with the boys is fine, you want your boyfriend to prioritize time with you over time with a gay guy hitting on him while also dissing you. Note that setting boundaries is not putting limits on other people. Something like, I don't want to see Dave alone, but is defining limits to what you'll do in that situation. The next time you're out till 3 a.m., you are not allowed to come to my place for the next week, or whatever response you think is warranted. You can't control someone else's behavior, but you can respond as you like to what they have done. OP says, I appreciate the advice. I agree that I can't say for 100% certain that he's not gay. I'm just going off of trust at the moment. But this whole scenario doesn't make it easy considering, like you said, people can come out at any point in life. I wouldn't say he grew up in an overly religious household. His mum is Protestant and baptized him, but he refused to be confirmed and doesn't engage in any religious practices. His dad and siblings aren't religious either, and he has a gay uncle. So it doesn't seem like it would be a huge issue in the family, but of course religion may not always be the reason to stay in the closet. I've seen some consensus that he may like the attention, which I honestly hadn't thought of at all. I could really see this as being the case just based off of his personality. He may think it's harmless, but it really has brought up an insecurity. I think I'll approach it as being more about the drama than anything about his sexuality, as I don't think that would go down well at all. The fact that he hid it from you in the first place is a red flag to me. I'd be as concerned as you. Firstly, what kind of shitty friend badmouths his friend's girlfriend while he simultaneously admits his affection for them? If a friend of mine had said that to me, that they liked me in more than just a friendship way, I would distance myself until either they got over their feelings or to a point that we no longer talked. The fact that your boyfriend has done none of this, especially after badmouthing you, but the reverse is alarming to say the least. Are you sure that your boyfriend isn't exploring his feelings for his friend? 1. Keeping most of this from you. 2. Romanticizing about it, rather than focusing on the negative badmouthing, most romantic thing anyone has ever done for him. And 3. Inviting him over to drink after all that. I can't remember everything we said, but we said it all. All of those signs to me say that he doesn't care about you and is either happy ignoring what happened or is exploring his feelings for his friend, and that he doesn't respect you by not even cutting his friendship off, even if it were temporary. I would personally sit him down to talk about it, and if he thinks that it's acceptable in any way, I would ghost him. OP says, the fact that he didn't tell me was a big thing that played on my mind for a while, and I also felt like it was a red flag. For now, I'm trusting that he's not exploring his sexuality while we're in a relationship, and that he's not lying to me about anything. But of course, I'll never be 100% sure. I do want to note that he and I have access to each other's phones, and find my iPhone, so I think that if there were anything to hide in terms of sexuality, he definitely wouldn't have done that. This was after everything with Dave as well. I do think that what you said about him perhaps romanticizing the incident could be spot on. He has probably not thought about or is ignoring how much it hurt my feelings. I also felt like he should have kept a greater distance after everything. Maybe I've been too passive about my feelings towards it, so I think I'll speak to him about how I feel. Chuck Greenwald says, no one said it yet, so I'm just gonna float it. It sounds like your boyfriend doesn't know how to shut Dave down. He might be afraid of seeming homophobic or being accused of that by Dave for rejecting his feelings. You might think that that's weird, but there's tons of people out there who interpret rejection of their feelings as rejection of their identity and get extremely vicious in response. Plenty of people have had their lives ruined by someone accusing them of bigotry for not giving in to their feelings. Dave sounds super catty, so if your boyfriend said that he was scared of him starting something, I'd believe it. Just a theory though. You're right to feel disrespected and wanting it to stop. I just think that your boyfriend might be in a tough spot here, especially if he has any anxiety or people-pleasing tendencies. And OP replies, "This has blown my mind. It seriously never occurred to me, but my boyfriend is 100% a people pleaser. I understand what you're saying about Dave potentially getting nasty if he felt rejected for his sexuality and identity, and I could see it as a possibility. Dave has also recently been promoted to my boyfriend's supervisor at work, though this wasn't the case when he admitted his feelings, so maybe that could also be a factor. I'm not sure, but what you've said is definitely something to think about." I don't know about you guys in this situation, but I'm definitely on board with the fact that OP's boyfriend and Dave have something going on, and OP's boyfriend just cannot say no. He's gotta ignore his girlfriend for 9.5 hours in a row because I can't step out of the room to have a conversation with you on the phone. I'd be pissing Dave off. I'd be upsetting Dave, you know? Everyone loves Dave. You know what? He talked mad shit about my girlfriend to my face, and I just nodded that one off. That was just A-okay with me. That's a very normal thing to do. Someone pours their heart out in front of you, says that you deserve better than your nasty girlfriend, that your girlfriend is trash. He's so normal and well-adjusted for just agreeing with that, and then staying up all night with him and getting drunk, and saying that that was the most romantic thing ever. These are definitely the words and actions of someone that is well-adjusted, I think. I just have to know, how is he 25 years old and still has yet to grow a spine? What has happened for him to come to this position? I think if I was in OP's shoes in this situation, I'd scream at him. I would absolutely scream at him for not standing up for me. And now, onto the final update. Before I get into the update, I just want to say thank you to everyone who shared their advice. My boyfriend and I had a long talk last night, and a lot of you helped me actually verbalize my feelings towards this situation. So my boyfriend called me immediately after he got home from the Dungeons & Dragons game, and I just got straight into it with him. By the time he got home, I was already stewing after reading everyone's perspectives on the situation, and I think I shocked him with how forceful I was from the get-go. We've not really had arguments like that before. I started by saying that I'm uncomfortable with the fact that Dave stayed over until 4 a.m., one-on-one with him, and that they got wasted. He seemed surprised and completely oblivious that it would bother me to this level, and he asked me to explain why I was feeling this way. I told him it's totally unacceptable that he and Dave spent basically the whole night together when Dave has actively tried to sleep with him and disrespected me and our relationship in the process. I told him that he needs to have boundaries with Dave, given all that has happened. His response to this was that Dave said these things a couple of months ago, and that he doesn't think that Dave still fancies him like that, or ever really did. He basically said that Dave was super drunk when he made his admission, but it wasn't that serious, especially since he's not gay or curious, and doesn't reciprocate Dave's feelings at all. I told him whether he took it seriously or not, the whole situation was serious to me, and that I feel extremely disrespected by both of them. I told him if this was a girl who admitted her feelings for him, and they stayed up together one-on-one until 4 a.m., I would immediately think something sketchy is going on, because you don't entertain someone like that when you're in a relationship. Just because Dave is a boy, that doesn't make it okay, and he should still have the same boundaries that he would for a girl who says that she's into him, propositions him, and talks shit about me. He didn't really agree with this argument because he said that it's different. In that scenario, there is a chance of attraction and sexual activity, but with Dave, there isn't. I told him that in any situation with anyone there's a chance. Yeah, put me in a room with oiled up Hulk Hogan, you're not going to want to see what happens. Regardless if he considers himself straight. How am I meant to trust that things wouldn't happen when Dave has already expressed his desire to have sex with him, and they were very drunk and alone together? In what world would I be comfortable with the fact that he has chosen to spend one-on-one time with Dave until the early hours of the night, knowing Dave has contempt for me and our relationship? At the bare minimum, he's showing Dave that it's okay to disrespect me and us, and that Dave still has his attention after all this, potentially leading Dave on since he has a sexual attraction towards my boyfriend. He told me that he understands my point of view, but it wasn't like that, and he didn't plan to have Dave stay that late anyway. I asked him to take me through the entire night and explain to me why they would need to hang out for almost 10 hours. He said that when Dave came over, they worked on his D&D character, and Dave explained how to play for about 3 hours, and they were having a couple of beers until Dave asked for something else to drink. Then they FaceTimed another co-worker who was hosting the D&D event and stayed on call for like 2 hours or more. Apparently it went from D&D conversation to gossip about work, etc. He said after that, he was showing Dave the music he's made and how to produce and DJ, and they just lost track of time. I asked him how he could lose track of so much time when I was messaging him at 11 p.m/midnight to say goodnight. He knew what time it was at that point, so why wasn't Dave on his way out by then? I told him the whole thing was super sketchy, which he took slight offense to, asking me what I'm trying to insinuate and saying it seems like I don't trust him. He said that in terms of lateness, he honestly doesn't know how that happened, and that he was shocked when he checked the time, and then asked Dave to leave as soon as he realized. He said he didn't ever think the situation was suspicious, and that from his perspective, Dave doesn't have feelings for him, so the whole night was innocent, / they were back to being the same friends as they were before Dave's admission. I told him that it can never go back, even if he thinks that Dave doesn't have ulterior motives. Dave put this out there, and that can't be taken back. His behavior needs to change, and boundaries need to be put in place. I told him that, without putting boundaries, he is essentially keeping things open from Dave's perspective. He told me that initially, when this entire situation happened, he distanced himself from Dave, except for when at work / work events and group outings, which is a lot of the time, so I'm not sure how distant that is. Nevertheless, he said they haven't met up one-on-one together for like 2 months. I'm pretty sure they have, but I will concede that he hasn't told me they've been alone at each other's houses since the admission. More so just the pub, if anything. But I could be wrong. He may just have not mentioned another person joining them. I couldn't remember the specific occasions where I thought they did though, so I couldn't really challenge him on that one. Anyways, he said their friendship was different because he felt awkward, which he didn't make clear to me at all. He always seemed like it didn't faze him at all, and it appeared to me that nothing had changed between them. He told me that they ended up having a chat a few weeks ago where Dave apologized for what he did and told him that he just didn't mean anything he said. He also said that because it happened a few months ago, he's just moved on from it now and decided to forgive and forget. I told him while he can forgive, he can't forget. Because this has happened now, and their friendship has to be different going forward for the sake of his partner and relationship. I also asked him why he never told me about this talk, and he said he didn't think that any of this was a big issue for me, so it didn't occur to him that this would be something that I would want to know. This led to us arguing about the fact that he doesn't share information with me / tells white lies and omits things, including when the Dave thing initially happened. I said that I always tell him immediately if anyone makes a pass at me, and even used an example of a friend, let's call him Bill, who had touched me in a sexual way on a night out and said to my best friend that he has feelings for me. When that happened, I literally called my boyfriend the same night while he was on holiday, as I knew that I would be seeing Bill for 2 upcoming group events, including New Year's Eve, both of which I invited my boyfriend to. He tried to deflect by saying that he didn't know Bill had verbally said that he had feelings for me, and that I only said that I think Bill has a crush on me, insinuating that it's the same situation as him and Dave, which I thought was ridiculous, and told him that he's just trying to find a loophole for his own behavior. I asked him if he would be okay with Bill and I spending all night together getting drunk. He said obviously not. But again, he thinks it's different, especially since the bill thing happened more recently. I told him then by his logic, that means it'll be okay for me to do that as long as I wait a couple of weeks/months. We continued going back and forth a bit. He apologized for making me feel upset and uncomfortable and said that it was never his intention. He just truly thought the whole thing with Dave was behind them. He also apologized if he came off defensive. He said maybe he's been naive, but he really did not believe that Dave still had any feelings for him or ulterior motives in spending time with him. He also said that it's become more difficult for him now that Dave is his supervisor because he essentially controls all his shifts, holidays, etc., and that if he alienates him, it might impact all of that. He asked me if I want him to cut off Dave for good, because he's not sure how he can do that given his work situation, and the fact that they often do group gatherings and events. He said it's kind of sad, because Dave had been a good friend to him, and they get along. I told him that if Dave was a good friend, he wouldn't have put him in this position, and that all of this is a consequence of what Dave did. This isn't something that I wanted to happen. I've always wanted to have a good relationship with his friends, but it's not my fault at the end of the day, and he said that it's not his fault either. I told him that, while I'm not okay with them spending alone time, I do understand that there is not much he can do to avoid him at work. He told me that he has no problem with doing that or putting more boundaries, as he doesn't ever want to disrespect me. He just wasn't aware that this was something that bothered me this much. He also said that since he's looking for a new job, he doubts Dave will be in his life to this degree much longer. We did touch on the same things during this conversation, but we weren't able to get into everything as it was about 2 a.m. at this point, and I had work in the morning. We're going to speak more again tonight, and hopefully resolve other things. Mostly about how I feel that I'm being treated, after some comments on the OG thread brought this to my attention. Again, I want to thank everyone for their input. I don't think that I would have been this brave enough to discuss this if most of you didn't validate my feelings. In the comments, Cultural Shape says, he also said that it's become more difficult for him now that Dave is his supervisor because he essentially controls all his shifts and holidays, and that if he alienates him, it might impact all of that. Honestly, if Dave isn't either prepared to draw a firm boundary between his personal relationship with your boyfriend and their dynamic at work, or to back off the friendship himself so that there is no opportunity to get that twisted, that's also a strike against him being a good guy with no ulterior motives. I understand that possibility might not make the idea of alienating him any less scary, but your boyfriend needs to recognize that he can't use that as his excuse and simultaneously claim that you shouldn't have any issues with Dave. OP replies, I totally agree. I'm surprised he is or was this oblivious to Dave's potential motives. To me, Dave doesn't seem like a good guy at all. Good guys do not try to convince you to get with them and insult your relationship in the process. I hope I made him aware of how wrong they both are to try to continue their friendship without boundaries. Also, something to add, he mentioned last night that Dave has been calling him fat now, which is partly why he thinks Dave is not sexually attracted to him, and that this has become a joke with his work colleagues. Some started calling him beefy, which is just, huh? I honestly don't understand how he could be friends with him. He seems awful to me. My boyfriend probably plays it off like it's nothing, but he does seem to have slight body image issues, and I'm sure deep down it plays on his mind, although he would never admit it. Wait. Your boyfriend had his boss hit on him, tried to break up his relationship, spend hours together late into the evening, and is now disparaging him physically at work. Does your boyfriend know he's being negged and sexually harassed? OP says, my mind immediately went to negging too. I am so exhausted with how much explanation is required to date this boyfriend, and I'm not even the one dating him. You said it perfectly. I was trying to puzzle out why reading it was exhausting. I don't want to criticize a real human in a confusing situation, and since Dave is her boyfriend's boss, the boyfriend is absolutely a victim of harassment. She wrote in a stream of consciousness way, the way people often speak when upset. It's just that, like you said, she seemed to be trying to convince herself why the relationship is worth it. I don't know. Am I valid for criticizing the boyfriend now? Is he just blind and oblivious to everything going on around him? Is that why Dave is preying on him? Because Dave is absolutely a piece of shit. I can absolutely get on board with that. Dave knows he will get away with this because he has got away with it. And now he's just pulling out tricks from his hat. Because calling him fat at work and nagging him like that is just insane. Maybe Dave sees something that we don't. Maybe Dave sees that there is sexual attraction between him and OP's boyfriend. But I don't get it. Why does OP stick around? You're setting yourself on fire for what? Why stay in this situation? It's so easy from the outside in to say, yeah, just break up with him. What are you doing? You're being an idiot. And I can empathize with OP in this situation that it's not hard, but after this much bullshit and him continually defending his own and Dave's actions, I don't see any reason why you would stay. How are you so comfortable staying in a relationship like this? Like, you don't need to convince yourself that this relationship is worth it, because I think most people would be in agreement that it's not worth staying there. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.